January 29th, 1886. A patent office in Mannheim, Germany, processes application number 37,435. Carl Benz has just filed paperwork for a vehicle powered by a gas engine. Nobody in that office realizes they're documenting the birth of an industry that will reshape human civilization. Within 70 years, Germany, a country twice destroyed by world wars, would dominate global automotive manufacturing. This is the story of how that happened. In the 1880s, two German engineers are working independently on the same problem. They live only 60 miles apart. They'll never meet, and both will claim to have invented the automobile. Carl Benz is in Mannheim, running a small engine factory that's barely profitable. He's obsessed with creating a self-propelled vehicle. His wife Bertha believes in him more than any investor ever will. Benz is methodical, precise, Germanic in his approach. He wants to build something from scratch. Engine, chassis, everything integrated as one machine. 60 miles north in Bad Cannstatt, Gottlieb Daimler is taking a different approach. Daimler doesn't care about building a complete vehicle. He wants to build an engine so compact and powerful it can be fitted into anything. Boats, carriages, bicycles. His partner Wilhelm Maybach is the technical genius making it possible. Where Benz is cautious, Daimler is aggressive. He's racing to file patents before anyone else can. Benz completes his motorwagen first. It's a three-wheeled contraption that looks more like a large tricycle than what we'd call a car. The engine sits horizontally at the rear, a single-cylinder four-stroke producing less than 1 horsepower. The whole thing weighs about 220 pounds without the driver. On that day in January 1886, Benz receives his patent. Patent number 37,435 is now considered the birth certificate of the automobile. But here's the problem. Nobody cares. Benz demonstrates his motorwagen around Mannheim, and people think it's a noisy toy. The horse and carriage industry is massive, established, trusted. Why would anyone want this sputtering machine? Months later in 1886, Daimler and Maybach complete their first engine installation. They've motorized a wooden carriage. Unlike Benz's purpose-built vehicle, this is literally a horse carriage with an engine bolted on. The engine is Daimler's pride, a compact, high-speed design that runs at 900 RPM, revolutionary for the time. Daimler files his own patents. Now there are two men claiming to be the father of the automobile. The German press barely notices either of them. The real breakthrough won't come from the inventors. It'll come from Benz's wife. August 1888. Bertha Benz has had enough of people dismissing her husband's invention. Without telling Carl, she wakes up early, takes their 2 teenage sons, and drives the motorwagen from Mannheim to Pforzheim, her mother's house, about 65 miles away. This is the world's first long-distance automobile journey. The trip is a disaster and a triumph all at once. The motorwagen breaks down repeatedly. Bertha uses her hat pin to unclog a fuel line. She stops at a pharmacy to buy Legroin, a petroleum solvent, to use as fuel. That pharmacy in Wieslach becomes the world's first gas station, though nobody calls it that yet. A shoemaker has to help her repair the leather brake pads. She uses her garter as insulation for a wire, but she makes it. And when she telegraphs Carl to tell him where she is, the news spreads. Suddenly, people understand. This machine can actually travel. It's not a toy, it's transportation. Why did the automobile emerge from Germany and not France, Britain, or America? Multiple factors converged. Germany in the 1880s had world-class technical universities, producing mechanical engineers at scale. The German states had recently unified in 1871, creating a large domestic market hungry for industrialization. Patent laws were strong enough to protect inventors, but not so restrictive they prevented innovation. Most importantly, Germany had no dominant horse-breeding industry with political power to block new technology. In England, powerful interests tied to horses and railways would slow automotive adoption for decades. Germany had no such anchors. By the 1890s, both Benz and Daimler are manufacturing automobiles, though calling them manufacturers is generous. These are skilled craftsmen building vehicles one at a time in workshops. Each car takes months to complete. Benz is slightly ahead in volume, producing a few dozen vehicles per year. The Benz Velo, introduced in 1894, becomes the world's first production automobile. Production means Benz is building multiple identical units, maybe 60 per year. It's a two-seater with a 1.5 horsepower engine and costs about 2,000 German marks. For context, that's roughly what a skilled worker earns in a year. These are toys for wealthy hobbyists. Other German manufacturers emerge. Adam Opel is already successful making sewing machines and bicycles. In 1899, they add automobiles. August Horch founds his company in 1899. It'll eventually become part of Auto Union and then Audi. The Wanderer company starts making cars in 1902. But the real competition isn't German, it's French. Companies like Panhard, Peugeot, and Renault are building cars faster and cheaper than the Germans. France is the center of automotive innovation in the 1890s and early 1900s. Germany is playing catch-up. Gottlieb Daimler dies in 1900. He never lived to see his company become dominant. Wilhelm Maybach continues the work, now operating as Daimler Motorengesellschaft, DMG. In 1901, they build a car for Emil Jelinek, a wealthy Austrian businessman and racing enthusiast. Jelinek demands they name it after his daughter. Her name is Mercedes. The 1901 Mercedes 35 horsepower is a revelation. It has a pressed steel frame, a mechanically operated intake valve, and a honeycomb radiator. It's lower, lighter, and faster than anything else on the road. Automotive historians often call this the first modern automobile because it establishes design principles that will dominate for decades. The Mercedes name becomes so prestigious that by 1902, DMG is branding all their cars as Mercedes. European road racing in the early 1900s is lethal and spectacular. The Gordon Bennett Cup, city-to-city races, the Targa Florio, these events kill drivers and spectators regularly, but they also prove which manufacturers have genuine engineering capability. German manufacturers compete aggressively. Mercedes wins the Gordon Bennett Cup in 1903. These victories matter because wealthy customers buy based on racing success. If your car wins Paris to Vienna, suddenly aristocrats across Europe want one. Across the Atlantic, something ominous is happening. Henry Ford is experimenting with assembly line production. In 1908, he'll introduce the Model T. Ford isn't building cars for wealthy hobbyists. He's building transportation for the masses, and he's figuring out how to do it at 1/10 the cost of European manufacturers. German manufacturers are still handcrafting vehicles for the wealthy. They're about to learn a harsh lesson about industrial production. By 1913, on the eve of World War I, Germany is producing roughly 23,000 automobiles per year. Benz is the largest manufacturer globally by volume. DMG's Mercedes is the most prestigious brand. Companies like Opel and NAG are established players. Germany has the engineering talent, the precision manufacturing culture, and the domestic market to compete globally. Then the world explodes. World War I, August 1914. Automobile factories across Germany cease civilian production. Everything converts to military manufacturing: trucks, aircraft engines, staff cars, ambulances. The technical expertise developed building precision automobiles now builds weapons. The war is a catastrophe for German industry. The Allied blockade cuts off raw materials. Skilled workers die in trenches. Factories run on substitutes and shortages. By 1918, German industrial capacity is gutted. The Treaty of Versailles imposes crushing reparations. Hyperinflation in the early 1920s destroys what's left of the domestic market. Who's buying luxury automobiles when a loaf of bread costs 1,000,000 marks? Currency stabilization and economic recovery. New companies emerge. BMW, originally an aircraft engine manufacturer, starts building cars. Ferdinand Porsche is designing for multiple manufacturers, establishing himself as Germany's premier automotive engineer. Benz and DMG, both struggling independently, make a logical decision. In 1926, they merge to form Daimler-Benz. The combined company will build luxury cars under the Mercedes-Benz brand. It's an admission that the German market can't support two premium manufacturers competing for the same wealthy customers. But here's the reality. Germany is losing the global automotive race badly. By 1929, American manufacturers are producing over 5 million vehicles annually. Germany produces about 130,000. Ford's River Rouge plant in Detroit employs more workers than the entire German automotive industry combined. The Germans have superior engineering, precision, and craftsmanship. The Americans have superior manufacturing, efficiency, and scale. A Ford Model A costs about $500. A comparable German car costs $2,000 or more. Germany is building Steinway pianos while America is building affordable transportation. January 1933. Hitler takes power. His vision includes mass motorization of Germany, partially for economic development, partially for military logistics. The problem is German cars are too expensive for ordinary citizens. Hitler tasks Ferdinand Porsche with an impossible project. Design a car that costs under 1,000 Reichsmarks and can transport a family of 5 at highway speeds. Porsche creates the KDF wagon, strength through joy car. It has an air-cooled rear engine, simple construction, and distinctive rounded styling. After the war, it'll be called the Volkswagen Beetle. The Nazis build a massive factory in a new planned city called KDF Stadt, later renamed Wolfsburg. They sell pre-orders through a savings stamp program where workers accumulate stamps to eventually receive a car. It's a scam. No civilian ever receives a KDF wagon before the war. The factory immediately begins military production. World War II transforms every German automotive factory into a military asset. Daimler-Benz builds aircraft engines, trucks, and submarines. BMW builds aircraft engines and motorcycles. The Volkswagen factory builds military vehicles and V-1 flying bombs. Opel, now owned by General Motors but under Nazi control, builds trucks for the Wehrmacht. The human cost is staggering. German automotive factories use forced labor, prisoners of war, concentration camp inmates, civilians from occupied territories. Tens of thousands work and die in these facilities. By 1945, Allied bombing has reduced German industrial capacity to rubble. The Volkswagen factory is 60% destroyed. Daimler-Benz plants are obliterated. BMW's Munich facilities are demolished. The entire industry exists only as ruins and scattered machinery. May 1945. Germany has surrendered. The country is divided into occupation zones controlled by American, British, French, and Soviet forces. The automotive industry, like everything else, barely exists. Factories are bombed out shells. Machine tools have been shipped to the Soviet Union as reparations. Engineers are scattered, dead, or in prisoner of war camps. The Allies initially planned to prevent Germany from ever manufacturing advanced machinery again. The Morgenthau Plan proposes reducing Germany to an agricultural economy. For German automotive engineers, this means their industry is finished. Everything they built is gone, and they're forbidden from rebuilding it. But people need transportation. In the ruins of German cities, survivors are jury-rigging vehicles from scrap. BMW workers in Munich are building makeshift motorcycles from spare parts. At the destroyed Volkswagen plant in Wolfsburg, British occupation forces find the KDF wagon's design intriguing. They need vehicles. The factory still has some tooling intact. British Army Major Ivan Hurst makes a crucial decision: start producing the KDF wagon for military use. By December 1945, the Wolfsburg factory produces its first post-war Volkswagen. It's painted British Army green and used by occupation forces. But it's production. The industry is alive. The British offer the Volkswagen factory and its designs to multiple manufacturers. Ford examines it and says no. The car is too weird, too noisy, too unsophisticated for the American market. This will be remembered as one of the greatest missed opportunities in automotive history. The rejected, unsophisticated design will eventually become the best-selling car ever made. June 1948. The Allied occupation zones introduce a new currency, the Deutsche Mark. Overnight, the German economy stabilizes. People have money that holds value. They can save, plan, invest. Businesses can operate normally. This currency reform triggers what economists will call the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle. For automotive manufacturers, the currency reform is the starting gun. Real business becomes possible. Daimler-Benz restarts production of the pre-war 170 series in their partially rebuilt Stuttgart factory. BMW cobbles together enough machinery to build motorcycles. Opel, under GM's control, begins rebuilding its Rüsselsheim plant. Heinrich Nordhoff takes over Volkswagen management in 1948. He's a production expert who trained at Opel and worked with GM. Nordhoff sees what others missed. The Beetle's weird design is actually perfect for post-war Germany. It's simple enough to manufacture with limited resources. It's cheap enough for ordinary Germans rebuilding their lives. It's reliable enough to run on poor quality fuel. And it's distinctive enough to build brand identity. Nordhoff makes a radical decision: produce only one model and perfect it relentlessly. While other manufacturers offer multiple models to cover different market segments, Volkswagen builds only Beetles. Every improvement in manufacturing efficiency reduces costs. Every design refinement increases reliability. By focusing absolutely, Volkswagen achieves economies of scale impossible for competitors, making 6 different models with shared capacity. The Beetle starts selling, first hundreds per month, then thousands. By 1950, Volkswagen is producing over 80,000 vehicles annually. The export market opens. Dutch buyers love it. Scandinavians love it. In 1949, the first Beetles arrive in America. Dealers are skeptical, but some customers find the quirky German car charming. Daimler-Benz faces a different challenge. Their pre-war strategy was building expensive luxury cars for wealthy customers. In 1950s Germany, those customers barely exist. The wealthy are ruined or hiding their assets. The company needs to rebuild brand prestige while surviving financially. The 170 series keeps the factory running, but it's nothing special. A basic sedan using pre-war design. Daimler-Benz needs something aspirational. In 1951, they introduced the 300, a luxury flagship sedan with a 3-liter 6-cylinder engine. It's not cheap, but it's magnificent. This is the car that reminds the world Mercedes-Benz represents German quality. Then in 1954, they do something audacious. They build a sports car, the 300 SL. It has gull-wing doors, a tubular space frame, and direct fuel injection. It's gorgeous, technically advanced, and completely impractical as a business case. Building it makes no economic sense. But it works. The 300 SL wins races. Movie stars and industrialists buy them. Suddenly, Mercedes-Benz isn't just a German company making cars. It's a global luxury brand again. That halo effect sells sedans and taxis worldwide. The 300 SL proves German engineering isn't just surviving, it's thriving. BMW has the hardest path. Their Munich factory is destroyed. Their Eisenach factory is in Soviet-occupied East Germany, lost entirely. They're building motorcycles and a bizarre little car called the Isetta, a bubble car with a front-opening door that looks like a joke. The Isetta actually sells. It's cheap, it gets incredible fuel economy, and it's technically a car for licensing purposes. But it's not sustainable. BMW is hemorrhaging money. By the late 1950s, the company is nearly bankrupt. Daimler-Benz offers to buy them. BMW shareholders are preparing to accept. Then a dramatic intervention, the Quandt family, major shareholders, block the sale. They inject capital and demand BMW develop a proper car. The company survives by the narrowest margin. The cars that will save BMW, the Neue Klasse of the 1960s, are still years away. But the company survives. Opel has a massive advantage: General Motors ownership. GM's capital and production expertise help Opel rebuild faster than independent competitors. By the mid-1950s, Opel is Germany's largest automotive manufacturer by volume, producing modern, American-influenced designs that Germans can afford. The Opel Rekord becomes one of Germany's best-selling cars. It's not exciting, but it's reliable, practical, and reasonably priced. Opel benefits from GM's parts sharing, engineering resources, and manufacturing knowledge. While other German manufacturers struggle to scale production, Opel builds cars efficiently using American methods adapted for Europe. By 1959, Germany's automotive industry has achieved something remarkable. From complete destruction 15 years earlier, Germany is now Europe's largest car producer. Volkswagen is exporting globally and will soon overtake Opel as Germany's biggest manufacturer. Mercedes-Benz is re-established as the world's premier luxury brand. BMW has survived crisis and will soon thrive. Multiple smaller manufacturers like Borgward, Auto Union, and NSU are producing significant volumes. Germany produces over 1.8 million vehicles in 1959, more than Britain, more than France. The country that lost everything has reclaimed its position as an automotive power. The foundation is set for what comes next. The 1960s and 1970s will see German manufacturers dominate global markets in ways the founders never imagined. From Carl Benz's three-wheeled contraption to the factories producing millions of vehicles annually, Germany's automotive industry has traveled an extraordinary path. 2 world wars destroyed everything twice. Each time, the industry rebuilt stronger. The reasons for German automotive dominance weren't accidents. They emerged from technical education systems producing world-class engineers, from a cultural commitment to precision and quality that accepted nothing less than excellence, from manufacturing expertise that combined handcraft traditions with modern industrial efficiency, and from an ability to learn, adapt, and persevere through catastrophes that would have destroyed lesser industrial bases. The cars that Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler invented in the 1880s launched an industry that would reshape Germany's economy, define its engineering culture, and create brands recognized globally as symbols of quality. That legacy continues today. When you see a Mercedes-Benz, a BMW, a Volkswagen, or a Porsche, you're seeing the result of 140 years of engineering obsession that began in 2 workshops 60 miles apart. The story of how Germany became the automotive capital isn't just about cars. It's about resilience, innovation, and the power of engineering culture to build something enduring from nothing but ideas and determination.